I am Adriana. We are one more time in the beautiful Bali. And today I want to talk a little bit about manifestation. What are the quickest ways that we can start manifesting what we truly want? And most importantly, where do we begin? Okay, so normally when we ask people what they want, they are a bit confused. But when you ask people what they don't want, everybody is much more clear about what they don't want than what they want. This is a fantastic indication. How so? It's very easy for you to flip the question to the other side. So let's say that you are very clear about not wanting to be in an office in a 9 to 5 job. The flip side of that is you want freedom. Maybe you want autonomy for your time. So this is already an indication of where your intention should go. Normally, when you ask people what they're doing in their manifestation, they don't know the answer. However, when I ask you what's going on in your life, in all those realms of life that we spoke about before, it's an indication of what you're secretly doing. So your subconscious mind is taking you to places. How does that work? Look, think about it. If you get on a taxi and you say to the taxi driver, I want to go to the airport. How many times have the taxi driver turned around and said to you, no, I think we should go to IKEA? Never, right? So the taxi driver just takes you to the location. And if he's a good driver, he's trying to see the quickest and the safest way to take you there. We are doing the same thing. So having the clarity of intention is the way that you command your taxi driver to take you to that place. What's super important in manifestation is to have clarity about what you truly want and not letting the saboteur tells you so many stories that take you away from the direction that you truly want to go. When we speak about manifestation, and many of us saw The Secret and it was like a big boom, what they did was use a bit of neuroscience with understanding a part of our brain that does all the work for us. This part of our brain is called reticular activating system. What does it do and why is it so relevant? When you say to yourself you want something, the internal taxi driver only has to do one thing, which is basically take you there. So if you think you want something, but subconsciously you are really certain even that you can't get it or you shouldn't get it, what you're commanding your taxi driver to do is exactly not allowing you to have it. That explains why sometimes we say what we want, but our sense of deserving is so small that we eventually manifest that. I want this, but I don't believe I deserve. So what happens? You never get to the final destination. I always say this to people. Pay attention because we are coherent. So you are coherently sabotaging what you say you want. Why? Because you believe you don't deserve. This is why we have to study this in a very thorough way so we can align your intention and your sense of deserving. And we can make this journey be much, much faster. Okay, so the way that I see manifestation is a little bit like going to a restaurant. So how does it work? When we get to a restaurant, what do? We receive something called the menu with the options. And then from there, you choose. You can choose whatever you want. If you're a person like me, I feel sorry for waiters when I arrive. Why? Because I'm very specific, which means I know exactly what I like and I know exactly what I don't like. So after you place an order, what is the job of the waiter? The waiter basically picks up your order. You can clarify with the waiter what you want, what you don't want, and then the waiter goes to the kitchen. As far as I know, this is the moment that we are sitting waiting. What do? In restaurants, they always give you bread, butter, they give you drinks. So basically in that moment, you're just being distracted. While the chef is cooking your food, you are just nibbling on a piece of bread, having a bit of a sip of your drink, and you're waiting. Now, granted, if that process takes more than the expected time, it's natural that you would call the waiter and ask if everything is okay with your order. If that's not the case, you're just distracted with your friends talking. So there is a period of time that's acceptable for your food to be made by the chef. You have never heard anybody say that as soon as they place their order, they stand up and they go to chase the waiter and then go behind and have the capacity of being behind the chef and just understanding and looking and giving opinions about what the chef should and shouldn't do. What does it mean in reality? If we use this metaphor exactly like placing an order for the universe, the more clear you are, the better chances you have of getting your order right. Now, sometimes you don't get the order right. And it doesn't mean that you have to take exactly what's being served on your plate. It means that you might need to refine your order. Make sure that you understand also what you want and what you don't want. How many times we see people eating food that they don't like or eating food that was even not even their order because they're embarrassed or shy, or the classical, oh my God, if I take it back, they're going to spit on my food, which is basically you telling you that you don't deserve to ask and to be sure that you get what you want. So in this metaphor, if we break it down, is be clear in what you're asking. You can ask as many questions as you like to the waiter. You can ask to change things from the menu, and they may or may not accept your suggestion. There is a period of time that you have to wait. This is not McDonald's, so things just don't get manifested like that. And the quick manifestations is not to say that it's bounded by time, but we do understand that when processes take more time, they are delivered in a more consistent and most likely a piece of art. Okay, so something interesting as well is whenever we are having a very strong desire towards whatever you want to manifest. So let's imagine the following. Every single time you are very clear about what you want, there's a very clear intention, and that intention is fueled up by emotions. Imagine a rocket. When the rocket has enough power, it gets launched and it goes all the way. So what happens when you start doubting what you said? Do I deserve it? Is it a dream too big? It's never going to happen. People like me don't get things easy. Your rocket loses power and it comes crashing down. Some people are great at the beginning of this rocket launching, and halfway through, they destroy their own dreams. Imagine that you're very strong, you know exactly which rocket you're launching, you are very clear, and when that energy is built up, we start parking rockets of the same nature on the same place. So imagine a huge parking lot that stays here, just above your head. And you start parking, parking, parking. Whenever that parking lot of desires is heavy enough, it comes down into your reality. So how do I know what you're doing in your launching of rockets? Just look at your reality today. These were the rockets that have been thinking and launching for a long time. So this is evidence in your real life about what you're doing. A very common question is to say, well, can I just erase and delete this parking lot? And the answer is no. But what you do is to start consciously launching lots of rockets from the nature that you truly want to see manifest in your life, which requires what? A lot of focus and a lot of intention. Meaning, the more you launch rockets of the same energy, the quicker you get them to be very, very heavy and crowd this parking lot, allowing them to become so dense that they have to come down and manifest in your current reality. We do manifest wrong rockets and we do manifest negative things. Why? Because unconsciously we are having lots of negative thoughts or fearful thoughts and unconsciously launching lots of rockets to the wrong parking lot. So when you're depressed or when you're fearful, that's what you're doing unconsciously. This is why it's so important to have that tuning with yourself, to know what you're doing. It feels good when you're manifesting and when you're really propelling those rockets that are aligned with you. It feels good. Yes, of course, you have to be consistent and diligent. And it's a method that I've never seen fail. So I think when we think about, so how do we do it? How do we even start in this process? One of the things that I said before, what I think is crucial, is increasing your sense of deserving, especially if you're very honest, which I believe most of us are, you will never accept to receive something you don't think you deserve. So it's like me saying, I want to be super wealthy and I want to be super rich, but my pocket has a hole. So it doesn't matter how many golden coins land in my pocket. If I don't believe I deserve, I'm walking around life with a hole in my pocket. And this is what we do in all the other areas, the 5 pillars that I mentioned before. So the most important thing is to check, are you aligned with your sense of deserving? Do you really believe that this is or isn't for you? But in a very deep and honest way. And then, of course, when we do our journaling, when we're having clarity of the things we actually want. So let's say, let's use the example of, I want to manifest a love relationship, or I want to manifest a life partner. But the person comes from so many traumatized experiences that they're terrified of any relationship getting really close. So they even manifest the guy, and the moment something should go to the second phase of the relationship, they will make sure that they will sabotage that. Or classically, they'll be attracted to people that are unavailable. They're still honoring, in a very honest way, what they want, which is, don't come close to me because I'm super scared of love. You see? So there's a real process of investigation. So we're really honest with ourselves to understand our starting point. So I think when we are thinking about, there's so many ways of starting to psych our subconscious mind to increase our capacity and our sense of deserving. When we say I want, it's already admitting and projecting outwardly how much you don't have. So you're just repeating lack over and over again. When I say I deserve a decent partnership, I deserve a beautiful love relationship, it's not from I deserve from an inflated ego, but yes, it is my right to have that. And I think you could do it many ways. Some people like to journal and repeat, or I am worthy of receiving. It will really depend on what works for you. Some people chant mantras or just have a feeling. You don't need, I'm not on favor of making lists so specifically, to be honest. I think if I say I am in a beautiful partnership and I'm using I am on purpose, that's the frequency that I'm creating around me. And that's it. And if I say I'm in a beautiful relationship and I'm happy, it means that this person obviously honors my love values. Okay, so this is also something very interesting, that sometimes we are so diligent, we are really putting a lot of efforts in manifesting something, but we have the saboteur thoughts, and they actually kind of knock your rockets down. Because if you sit and you're doing all the manifestation, I'm sitting there, I'm focused, and I'm using, which is very good, 5 minutes of my time in the morning, making sure that I think about the thoughts, feel the feelings, and see my rockets launching to the right direction. However, it is actually quite common, I wouldn't say it's natural, but it's quite common that we have negative thoughts that knock our rockets down. And how would you know? Suddenly, all those good feelings start not being there so strongly anymore. When I say be connected to your body, be connected to your emotions, if you start feeling anxious, if you start feeling fearful, you can count you're already in the wrong frequency. Okay, something also super interesting when people get into this manifestation conversation is to believe that I sit here, I write my manifestations, I sing, I chant my mantras, I imagine, I envision this person, and that this person is going to knock on my door. Is when you create that energetic openness to that, and then you, as I say, I expose myself to the miracle. So let's say you're looking for a life partner, but you absolutely never come out of your house. I dare to say that if you're very lucky, you're going to have maybe the DHL guy knocking on your door or the water delivery, which I'm not saying they can't be potential partners, but the likelihood of that happening is very small. Meaning, exposing yourself to the miracle is putting yourself out there, giving yourself a chance for the miracle to come your way. So if you're hiding at home, or if you're playing your life very, very small, chances are that this is part of you sabotaging your own dream. I would dare to say that if you're waiting, you're not doing your manifestation properly. Because there's something about It's exactly like I said before, when you place your order in the restaurant of the universe, you're not waiting. I'm entertained by whatever bread or whatever. If I order a starter, I'm not waiting. I'm doing something else with my life. Otherwise, it's almost like, imagine you're making a cake and every 5 seconds you open the oven to see if it's ready. Chances are your cake is not going to work. So there's a piece of you putting the energy out there and stepping into trust. It's not even hope, it's trust. I think there's this common sentence that says, I always get what I want. I really believe it's true. People don't like that because sometimes when you see what's happening in their current reality, there's a lot of things that technically are not nice, but it's true that we get what we want. And I would dare to say, more than we get what we want, again, we get what we think we deserve. So it's crucial that we start analyzing, where does our sense of deserving start from anyway? And if you're told in childhood that this is a dream too big, that people that come from your culture, your family, your religion don't get those things, or if you were taught since you were a child that these things are very difficult and it doesn't happen, so you start believing that this is exactly what can or cannot happen in your life. But the truth is, yes, we get what we think we deserve. Manifestation is an inside job. And I know that this doesn't sound something, we don't like that because we want it to be something external, like a magic pill, but it isn't. Pay attention to people that are cracking this code and understanding that the more they tell this part of the brain what they truly want, like the driver of life, he only has to drive you there. He's not there to criticize, ask, or make your journey harder. He's just there to do his job of taking you to the destination you asked him to go. I think the first step of getting clarity in manifesting what we want is to have a very honest sit down on stage one. What is stage one in manifestation? Where am I now? What is going on in my life? So you're paying attention to what the person has, and most likely, let's say in the example, I want to manifest a life partner, and they don't have a boyfriend, or they don't have a girlfriend, they don't have a partner. So it's accepting that there is an absence of this person in my life. And the second thing is, why is this absence there? And most likely it will come from those experiences of your past. Either you come from a story in your family that you saw your parents in a bad relationship, or you saw parents betraying each other. So we go back to, what is the truth for me today about this or that aspect of my life? This is the beginning of everything, because that will dictate what you think you can or cannot have. The beauty about having individual coaching is that we can focus, and I can really help you narrow down and help you to go through these issues much faster. Sometimes by ourselves is hard to understand. We actually don't even know that we are carrying a huge backpack of stories, beliefs, weight really, that's not ours. And remember when I was speaking about values and loyalty, sometimes we are loyal to the backpack, to the beliefs of my mom, or to the story of my parents. So on a one-on-one session, it's much easier for me to help you unpack everything that potentially could be there. Okay, so a way to stay connected is through Instagram. You can join and have a membership. You can also get information on my newsletter. And if you stay tuned, you'll know exactly where the next retreat is going to happen around the world. I want to thank everyone for being here. And the way to wrap this conversation up is to do one launching of a rocket of desire. And for that, let's close our eyes. I'm going to do it with you. So we're going to take a nice, long, deep, steady breath, inhaling deeply, allowing the shoulders to naturally again rise up towards your ears. Soften your facial muscles. Exhale very slowly. Unclench your teeth. And let's keep that breath calm, silent, and fluid, inhaling deeply and consciously. And exhaling slowly. And just by taking a couple of nice, focused, deep breaths, we can immediately feel our energy calming down. And I want you to think about one deep, big desire that you have. And just have clarity about this big desire. And imagine how you're going to feel when that desire is manifested in your life. What would you be doing? How would you behave? How would you talk? Visualize yourself already having that desire manifested in your life. You might notice that the sense of confidence will change. When you visualize yourself, you could see yourself walking in a much more confident way, or calmer, or happier, or laughing more. And as you build that image inside of you, inside your mind, imagine that you're launching a rocket of desire, building energy into that idea. And imagine a rocket being launched, going really fast, and parking that rocket on the same parking lot of many other good ones of the same nature. And once you have visualized that, you just repeat mentally, and so it is, and so be it. For my greatest good and for the greatest good of all. And come back to your body, feeling the body heavy against the floor wherever you're sitting at. Another couple of deep breaths. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.